Hello out there. Welcome to our podcast today, The Brand and the Source. This is Coach Eric Johnson, The Brand.
And this is Coach Aaron with two A's, Thick Pen, The Source.
Hey, Aaron, I want to hit us up on a couple things we got coming up in the hardball athletics, I should say, quarter here. We've got a seminar for all you travel ball parents, how to navigate travel ball. I think it's some great informative information about, what's going on in the travel ball industry and, how Aaron and I can help you understand what is happening and what is current out there. So that's coming up. Aaron, anything else coming up besides that?
Yeah, I'm going to be launching our Champions Are Built series podcast in the next couple of months. So I'll probably release one of these gems each month, because I want to make sure that everyone gets to hear them and they don't miss them. We've got Alan Jaeger, who's done one of our podcasts. We've got Rob Bruno, got Robert Stevenson, we got Shooty Babbitt, we've got Andre Ward. So we're not just talking to baseball players, but we're also talking to just other successful athletes. And, how do they feel about being a champion? What has kind of gone into their makeup of becoming a champion? And I think it's really good information. So you guys stay tuned for that. We've probably got about 6 or 7 episodes. I think we have Tyson Ross on there as well. Yeah, so we got some really good guests. Anthony Miller, 7-time Pro Bowler, wide receiver for Denver Broncos, the San Diego Chargers. I mean, we've got a whole list of guys with some very valuable information, because I really believe that, champions are built, and they're built by a lot of things, the people around them, their environment, what they have internally that drives them. So it's a good subject to delve into, and I think that'll be exciting to hear. So stay tuned for that, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited about what we got cooking, Aaron. So it's totally ready for that. Okay, to our subject today, Aaron. Here it is. The topic is: are you on too many teams? ?
Yeah, and I see this because I work with a lot of athletes in a lot of different sports. So soccer, It's not just in baseball, it's in basketball. A lot of these sports, I think these kids are overcommitted to a lot of different teams. And, what's the effect of that? And I know part of what has to do with that is, well, hey, everyone's doing it, so maybe I need to be doing it, the FOMO, fear of missing out sort of thing. But I think parents should sit back and, again, take stock and say, hey, what are we getting out of playing on all these teams? Can our time and our resources be better spent somewhere else to continue to move our athlete forward? There's a lot of different things to this dynamic. There's the physical aspect, there's the mental aspect, there's the financial aspect. There's a lot of different things that come to mind when I think of this, just their development as a teammate. If a guy is kind of that bat for hire, or that arm for hire, does he really develop the relationships, the interpersonal team relationships that are going to make him a better teammate, player, and athlete? So those are just some of my initial thoughts. There's the obvious, hey, are you having time to do some of the other things for your development, like i.e. training? But why don't you go ahead and give me your initial thoughts too, EJ?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind, Aaron, is rest. Athletes need to rest. And I think that encompasses 2 things. One, the physicality, your body, taking care of your body. It needs to recover. The second thing is that your mind needs to recover. It's kind of like if you fall asleep at night, Aaron, and you have the TV on all night, or you've got your iPad in front of you all day, or your telephone, and you're trying to sleep, but this is constantly going on in your mind and mind. Nothing ever gets quiet. Nothing ever settles down.
Right.
And so my initial thoughts are more or less on that line, Aaron, is that I see too many athletes worn out. I see them burned out. I see them not able to give their best effort mentally. And as you know, you and I know, being ex-professional athletes, the mental preparation and the ability to turn it off and turn it back on needs to be done for an athlete. And when you're doing too many teams in any sport, when is that ever accomplished to where you can actually heal and learn? Where's the learning process of taking notes or writing stuff down and saying, hey, here's my plan? And that leads to that. What is your plan? You know, there's never a plan if you're constantly going and going and going. It's like the mouse on the wheel going around in a circle, the hamster on the wheel just going around in a circle. It's continuous and it's never ending. And I see a lot of athletes getting burned out. I see a lot of athletes quitting. It's a shame when you see a very talented person quit. And you know that they have more in the tank, but they can't do it anymore because they're just flat out, burned out, tired, and they never rest. So those are my initial thoughts. I think about that side of it a lot more, besides the 5 things that you mentioned that are all important also. I think of it that way. And I think we understand as athletes when you need to take a step back.
Yeah, and I think in our conversation with Rob Bruno and other people in the industry, you know, we talked about playing versus practice. And it just seems to me you can be on multiple teams, but you may not be necessarily getting the practice time that you need, you know, to work on things. Right. So if you're always going and playing and competing, well, when are you working on some of the, you know, the basic foundation for getting better? And that's kind of what comes to mind when I hear about kids being on a lot of teams. You know, usually it's because they're trying to get more competitions in. Well, right. I don't know if that's really the answer. The answer maybe should be, well, how do I get more practicing in? And then the next question should be, how do I get more quality practicing in? Because you can be on 2 teams or 3 teams and you're practicing, but is it quality practice?
Right.
And so maybe you don't have one of those teams and you substitute that for your actual, again, you've heard me talk about this before. You know, I think an athlete needs to spend time with themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes you a better athlete. And I didn't realize this until I got a lot older, but that time that you have with yourself as an athlete to discover what you can do, who you are as an athlete, and kind of think things through and go through things at your own pace with your own voice is very powerful. And I don't think athletes allow themselves that time. And when you've got yourself overbooked on all these activities, yeah, you're going and you're doing a practice here and you're doing a practice there and doing a game here and doing it. But when do you have time to kind of listen to your voice and work through these things that you need to work through as an athlete, whether they're emotional, whether they're technical, whether they're tactical, you know, whether they're physical? And I think that should be something that athletes consider when they're starting to chop up their time and how they're going to spend it. And I think there should be some time to just that quiet time, you know, where an athlete trains the things that they want to work on, the way they want to work on them, you know, on their own.
Man, I mean, boy, that just brought back a lot of memories of our personal training when we were athletes. But I think about, you know, just athletes, you know, in general that we see, that we train together, or just we know and we talk about just on a side conversation, and we talk about these things, So all you sports fans out there listen to our podcast, these are things that Aaron and I talk about on a regular basis. We talk about the health of an athlete, and that the physicality of it, and also the mentality of it. And I think that's important. I think of one guy we share, and I'll just leave his initials, MA. And MA, this guy really understands that. I think he does a good job with it. I think that's why he's progressed. I think that's why he's going to play college baseball, is because he understands that well, and he stayed to the grind, and he took time off to get better. He slowed down. I wish every athletes that we see a lot of guys like this, and I'm gonna mention this one guy who you've been training, Robert Stevenson, forever. Here's a major league pitcher who's very talented too, but he's trying to develop another pitch right now and get better at it, and he just works at it. And he only can do that if he takes that time to kind of take a step back a little bit and do that. So, being on too many teams, you don't have the ability to do that, like you said, Aaron. And I think you miss out on many things. The injuries are really a big thing. We haven't talked a lot about that. That's your initial point. The injuries become a problem. Mm-hmm. And I see it with younger kids. I do. I see sore arms all the time. We have a guy right now who has sore arms. He's had sore arm for a year. And it's just because he keeps on playing and he doesn't stop. And I'm going to go do this. No, just take a break for a while. Let your arm heal. And the injuries become a major factor. And players don't heal up, and they never get better, and they just never help. They're never healthy. And that affects their mentality too, Aaron. So it's kind of like when you said, on too many teams, injuries are a major factor. And I know you see it when you're training guys and you ask them, what did they do? And you've already gave them advice, like, I think you should rest and do this. And they, no, I got to go do that. And then it puts you back 4 to 8 weeks, and sometimes 12 weeks, Aaron. So yeah, I don't know what your feeling is on that, but I just kind of see that being a major factor too.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously adds to, one of the biggest problems in baseball. And actually I see it in basketball, is overuse injuries, because they're just spending so much time doing the repetitive stress injuries. They're doing the same activity over and over and over again. And there's not the recovery time. There's not the time to build the muscles back up. And, that can be a problem. And again, I get probably the underlying motivation for why you want to be on multiple teams is because you want to have the opportunity for more competition, but at what cost? And my thing is, well, do you add a couple more games where you might get X amount of playing time, minutes on the court, or 6 extra at bats? Does that really help in the development of your athlete versus maybe taking some time off, or maybe again having that personal time, or maybe adding it to training or some other kind of skill development, sort of activity, as well as all the stress and strain of getting in the car, driving, here and there, all of the other things associated with it that wear on the body. Just because your kid's not driving doesn't mean he's not, those hours sitting in the car and all of that prep time to go play doesn't wear on you, wear on them. So
I've got a question for you.
Things to consider, just some things to consider.
I got a question for you. Hey, Aaron, how many Olympics are there Olympics are every what?
4 years. Yeah.
How many World Series are they?
Yeah. 1 a year. Yeah.
How many Super Bowls?
Yeah. 1 a year.
Right? People out there, stop chasing things so much, so fast. Those are professional athletes who a lot of kids out there aspire to be that. I'm not saying they're going to be that, but they aspire to do that. But the goal of, it means something. it means something to play in that national championship. It means something to go here. It's all right to have failure. It drives you to become better. It just drives you. And I think sometimes being on too many teams, it's like, okay, we're going to go play there this weekend. Go play there that weekend. What are we really accomplishing, Aaron, at the end of the day? And it goes back to what, we were talking about, one of the guys we're going to have on Champions Are Built, Rob Bruno. We're talking about baseball, and we've been involved in this thing for so many years, 30 years, talking about games. Why not stop the game? We play Rob, and we stop the middle of the game, and we're teaching. We're not only teaching our guys, we're probably teaching both teams, what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that. So I always say out there, I tell the parents, stop chasing things that are they really important? How important are they? It's important that you get ranked. You're on this team's ranked this high. This is what we can get out of it. What are you getting out of it at the end of the day? So that's kind of like our 3 cents. You got any other thoughts about that, Aaron? Any other?
No, that's it. It actually segues into one of the other podcasts we're going to do is who gets the thrill of victory?
Ooh.
And that will be one of our next ones. We're going to talk about that whole dynamic. Who is this really for? And, keeping sight of the big picture. So, no, that's all I have to say about, are you on too many teams? ? Ask yourself that question.
Cool. Hey, with that said, this is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. We'll see you.